Good morning, friends. Look up, make sure it's still morning and it's not. So, good afternoon, friends. Even though if it's morning where you are, I don't really know. I don't know where you are. You're probably right there right now. But later on, when I post this video, you may be in the same place, you may be in a different place. You may watch it tomorrow in the morning and go, "What's he talking about? Good afternoon." Or at one period of time, I was attending a unity church, and I liked it very much. I liked the consciousness at the time. It kind of stayed there while other things progressed, and I went with the progression. But there was one song I liked, um, "Let There Be Peace on Earth," and "Let It Begin with Me." And I liked singing that song because I liked the message, and I liked also the consciousness of it. That really, and I've come more and more to this place that I don't experience the world as it is. I experience the world as I am. And I project how I am into the world. That's one perception. That's my current one. I'm willing for it to change. Because all healing, from my perspective, has to do with change. If something doesn't change, it stays the same. So if you're in a state of needing healing and nothing changes, you'll still be in a state of needing healing. If you change something up, and the three keys to change, according to my night school that I've attended past 6 years or so, and a different school 7 years before that. So for the past 13 years, I've gone to night school in the dream world. And in June or so of 2020, they taught me a process for releasing beliefs. And they explained to me that beliefs were stories with emotions based on unresolved events from the past. So the story told may not have actually had to do with the event, although it might have, but the story told was a blustery way to deal with the emotions one was feeling and trying to give it a context. Whereas if one didn't give it the context, didn't give it the story, one would have just had to deal with these feelings that one didn't know what to do with because they were strong and they weren't necessarily related to that moment. That moment may have just been a triggering mechanism for this event that might have occurred in another lifetime, could have occurred in the womb, in childhood, in teenagehood, in 20hood, 30hood, 40hood. Could have occurred at any time because one never knows when an event is going to be overwhelming until one experiences it as overwhelming. And then if one releases and integrates the energy of the event, then it goes back to being an event. But for however long we hold on to the energy of the event, then it's perceived to be an overwhelming event and a threat to our present state of sanity, whatever sanity is. I'm sure there's a definition. I'd say definition of sanity is group think. If you think like the group, you're sane. And I would say, well, that's insanity. And I prefer unsanity, which is the state of my own well-being from my own perspective. And if I have a sense of being well and doing things that continue to support my sense of wellness, then I'm a sane person. And if you continue to support your state of wellness, then you're a sane person as well, or an unsane. I like the term unsane, like the uncola. you know, sanity is like, I question why would anybody want to be like everyone else? And unsanity is answering that question. I'm not like everybody else. I'm a unique individual within this complex oneness of consciousness, which we're all, from my understanding, moving into. So let's just move right in. So I haven't done a video in a while. And the reason I haven't done a video in a while is because it just felt like it took too much energy after doing something like 279 videos in 7 months, which is probably an average about 4. I don't know. I'm not even going to do the math. 40 videos a month for 7 months, 280 videos. Yeah. 40 videos a month, so it's at least one a day. But some days there'd be like 3 or 4 videos in a day if I was on a roll. And then I began to question it. I began to question doing the videos. And then I began feeling like just writing. And so I began writing. And then I felt like somehow through writing, I began to establish a more personal relationship with people, and people began writing back to me. It was like we were sending love letters to each other. I'd write a love letter, and somebody would write a love letter back, and it really was powerful. I felt like it opened up the communication through writing. And one of the things that motivated me to do a video today was the thought that's been on my mind about feeling guilt or shame. There could be many different variations on the emotional theme. But guilt or shame, embarrassment about not feeling well. So I have practiced as a chiropractor now. I'm not in active practice. I still take care of my family members and occasionally another chiropractor or something, or a few friends. But for the most part, I'm not in active practice. I don't have an office. I do more energy work over the phone with people, and I love that. And so that kind of sustains me in terms of my work with others. It's simpler. I don't even have to take a shower to do healing work, although I frequently do, and I take a lot of cleansing baths, so you don't have to worry too much about my state. I don't want you imagining me smelling, oh gosh, I was doing an energy session with this guy and he really stunk. That's a sensitive individual. That's a person who has a lot of awareness. But I was talking about shame or guilt or embarrassment about not feeling well. And almost like there's a period of time in my life when I was actually attending seminars, workshops, gatherings to heal and to get better at living a life on this planet, and positive affirmations, and just think positively and then live positively and then manifest your dreams, and all those different things that changed things. So that was good. That was worth the money that was put out, was to have things change. I'm sorry, I haven't done this video in a while, and I didn't notice that I hadn't plugged in the headphones, so hopefully you'll be able to hear it. And if you're not meant to, you won't. And it's almost like when one begins to talk about guilt or shame or embarrassment about not feeling well, And I would attend these workshops with people, and everybody was, not everybody, but a lot of the people, especially who had attended a lot of workshops, were all about, oh, look at the great life I'm manifesting. And it was almost like you were guilt tripped, was a term that was used then and might be used now. Now I think there's another word for it, gaslighted, which is another form of guilt tripping, making people feel bad that they don't think and act like everyone else. Now, from my perspective, we should all feel really good about ourselves when we don't think and act like everyone else. Yeah, I think, because I look at the world and I go, well, it's on some levels, this is going to heck. You know, yeah, and that's just maybe an old person's perspective, remembering a world that probably never existed, but in my memory, and it was like, oh, that was so good, and I still have friends from grade school. I still have friends from high school. I don't live anywhere near any of them. But what was established during that time was a sense of safety within community. Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody gets that feeling in their life anymore. They don't even necessarily get that feeling from family. And even then, I didn't get that feeling from family. I didn't get a feeling of safety and acceptance for who I was. I got a feeling like, it's, as my dad said, it's my way or the highway. And being what would be termed in those times a smartass, I said, my thumb's already out. I thought I was a wise man, but I was 17 years old and I was just a wise ass. And it was true. I wanted to live a different life, and I knew that I couldn't live within the constraints of the reality that my father lived within, that he wanted me to live within his constraints. And I felt like, no, I need to go explore life. I need to go experience it for myself and see what I come up with. And the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment for being different. And we've all seen it over the past 4.5 years. We've seen what the culture was promoting as acceptable behavior and acceptable perceptions of reality, and how anybody who didn't agree with that perception of reality, I think of them as the thoughtful people who appeared to care more about the well-being of others than the people who were saying that they cared about the well-being of others. And so there's sometimes a difference between what some people say and what they do, and what they say and what their actions are. And when there's a difference between those two, there's a split somehow in the psyche. And so I started out for a while doing a video where I was reading the book Attuned by Thomas Hubel. And now I just recommend that you get the book and just move at your own pace, or you can go back. I maybe have 13 or 10 or 13 videos where I just read from the book, and you can just go back and listen to those, and each one of them will give you a lot to think about. But I've just gone back to reading it on my own as a meditation. So as a means of going into a place through the words and then working in that place. And one of the things, well, there's just so many things. There's so many good things about the book. Attuned with a small a, so Attuned by Thomas Hubel. Thomas Hubel is described as a modern day mystic, and I think he has his doctorate in maybe psychotherapy. I know he has a PhD, and he is a trauma therapist. So I'm guessing maybe his PhD is in some sort of therapeutic modality, but I don't know. But I will at some point know what his PhD is in. But just knowing that he's a trauma therapist and knowing that he's respected by kind of some of the main faces in trauma therapy, Stephen Levine and Gabor Mate and and many others. He's a wise man, and he was born in 71 or 72, so he's just maybe 52 years old or so. But he's a wise man, and you can tell by listening to him. You can watch videos on YouTube where he speaks about different things, or he interviews people, and in his interviews you just get it, that he's teaching people how to relate in a new way. And one of the ways that he is teaching people how to relate is to learn to become comfortable with the discomfort. Because there's so many traumas that we've experienced personally and that have come to us through our hereditary, our genetics, through our father's trauma, our mother's trauma, our grandfather, grandmother, traumas, their parents' traumas, and their parents' traumas, all the way back to who knows when. But this appears to be a planet of traumas and a planet of never-ending wars. They just seem to never end. One ends, another one begins. And this is what we've learned to live with, but can we learn to live life differently? And can we become okay with our discomfort? Can I talk about over 11 months, 11 and a half months, on the 17th of August, it'll be 1 year of detoxing, which physically felt to me like I felt sick. And why I even had this other thought that I'm not sick, I'm detoxing from the world I've lived in. And the chemicals that I've taken into my body and the emotions, the traumas that I've experienced myself or caused for others, and all the things that are just sitting there attempting to come into our consciousness to be resolved, and instead, I'll just have a beer. I'll just smoke a joint. If the traumas were worse, I'll just shoot heroin, or I'll get on opium, or I'll take opioids, or I'll do whatever to not feel these painful feelings that I would say almost everyone has inside them, because everyone lives here and everyone was somehow involved in war, mass destruction, Holocausts. Even if we're not in the genetic pattern of a particular event, we're in the genetic pattern of some event or multiple events, multiple invasions of our country by another country that was called a different name back then. But it's all like, you've got stuff, we want stuff, you got stuff we want, we have better arms, better weapons of war, and so we can come in and take your stuff. And there's nothing really you can do about it. You'll just die trying to stop us, so we're just going to kill you. And there's a lot of that that's gone on. And then, whoever wins the war gets to write the history. They make themselves look really good. Maybe that's the story. But lots of people die. And so the first thing that maybe we want to do is just recognize the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, the sadness, the fear, the anger that may still be stored inside of us. And rather than feel like it's of value to act out from that place of fear, grief, anger, guilt, shame, whatever, that we can not act. We can acknowledge what we're experiencing. And we can practice the 4 agreements. Do your best. Be impeccable with your words. Don't take it personally. Don't assume that you really know what's going on. Do your best and don't take it personally. So when you begin to see if someone else can acknowledge you where you are, and instead of being able to do that, and they go into discomfort, and they try to suggest how you might fix yourself, which is acknowledging what you felt on a deep level. There's something wrong with me, and here's a person saying, here's how you can fix it. And those things more than likely aren't going to work. Because nothing fixes trauma but the release and integration of the emotions of the trauma. And once you release and integrate the emotions of the trauma, then what was called a trauma can now be called an experience. I had this experience in this life. I had this experience in another life. My ancestors had this experience. So there's many things that are just useful in terms of getting through this period of time. And if you're feeling like the best I can do is just get through this, then you're part of a group that feels the same way. And if it helps you to feel better that other people are feeling the same way, then great, by all means, feel the way that others are feeling. And if you feel like you're not feeling that way and you feel different, feel great that you're feeling different. Feel great that there's a cat. I know you're not going to be able to see her, but there's a cat that feels good enough about your vibrations. You're going to be able to see her if I poke her up like that. That's best at. If there's a cat that feels good enough about your vibrations, then you can make it up that you're doing okay. The cat, likes your vibrations. Or you could make it up that the cat likes heat and you're the hottest thing around. So if the cat sits in your lap, a cat's got to maintain a temperature of 103 degrees is what a cat runs at. And that probably takes a lot of energy unless they're laying on a lap that's maybe 98.6 degrees or more, depending if you're detoxing and you could be colder or hotter, whether you have the flu or you've caught a virus or you have a cold or starve a cold, feed a fever. What do you do? But if you've not felt well for a few years, all the more reason to be kind. to yourself and others who maybe haven't felt well for a number of years. They've been stressed out. Some lost their job, or have been working from home, so they never see anybody, and whatever. It's been a challenging time, if nothing else. And I don't know if if you're a subscriber, if you get an email when I post something, but I've just been posting things. I've been writing things and posting them. And if you don't get those and you want to read something I've written, then you can just go to my site, Stephen McLean or Observational Healing. Basically, click on the rock, and it'll take you. And when you get to my page, my YouTube channel, it'll say videos, most recent videos, and also community. And in community are my posts. And so that's where I'm writing. That's where I'm doing most of my expression of self and my thoughts and my ideas. And if you find them helpful, great. And if I've really been appreciating how many people are writing really thoughtful responses about what I've written. It's lovely. I like it a lot. And people have expressed their appreciation for all that I've been doing that's been helpful to them. And that's what basically my guides, and if you're willing to say you have guides, then you're really out of the closet, out of the spiritual closet. But my guides have wanted me to do this for really the last 4 years. And it took me until December of last year to just feel like I could do it. The various aspects of videotaping and then uploading it, all this stuff. Finally, my IT person, my stepdaughter, helped me to do the various things. And then if you do something, you might become fairly good at it. And then you might get excessive in terms of the numbers of videos you make, because you want to say everything that you haven't said for the last 4 years, or for the last 70 years. Ever since you first started to talk, you had something to say, but people are like, what, are you crazy? That's not sane. That's not normal. You're not like the rest of us. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But if you're a person of the heart, and that you really internally feel like you care about the rest of us to the best of your ability, then you are like the rest of us. If you're a caring person, you are like the rest of us. We're all a bunch of caring people who have been frightened into separation. And to me, there's nothing worse than separation. There's nothing worse than that separation of consciousness, like, I don't like this person, or they're voting for Trump, therefore I can't say a good thing about them, or they're voting for Harris, so I can't say a good thing about them, or they're voting for Kennedy and wearing Kennedy t-shirts, and it's just like the American Revolution or something. Like, oh, we're going to vote for the person whose father was assassinated because he ran for president. To me, that's a gutsy person. That's a gutsy person. I'm going to run for president. My father was assassinated while he was campaigning for president, and my father's brother was assassinated while he was president. And maybe he was assassinated in his start of his second term. I can't remember. 62, I think, that he was assassinated. So it might have been the beginning of his second term, or the end of his first. No, the beginning of his second term, because then when he was assassinated, then the vice president took over and was president for the next few years and continued the war, which was, I think, quite possibly what the assassination was about, that and the monetary system. So the people in control of the monetary system, which benefited from wars, didn't really want this upstart Kennedy, who was, good, bad things about him possibly, but anyway, he was here to change things, and the powers that be have some power. And if they want you out on a planetary level, you're out. And if your brother wanted to take over, but they got rid of him quick, and now his son wants to be president, I say, brave man. He is a brave man. He's gone up against the system. And so, who knows? If those, the parties that maybe control elections, they're giving you one person or another. And then there's an independent who, is maybe you have to write in, or maybe he's going to show up on some of the ballots. But the powers that be are the powers that be are the powers that be are the powers that be. And I think have been in power for a long, long time. Patriarchy. And so we're coming into a new world. So we're coming into a 13,000 year cycle of matriarchy. So maybe Kamala Harris is going to bring that in. Who knows? We'll see. But that polarity, that we create, that separation from others based on whatever, religion, political, whatever you want to make up, that allows you to feel separate and better than or smarter than or righter than, then you just go with that if that's working for you. But if it's not working for you and you really feel like all of us coming into relationship as if we're one kind of cosmic family that realize that we're all different, but we're all unique contributors to one consciousness. And the more we connect to that one consciousness, the more unique our contributions may be. So, boy, this seems like it went on for a long time, this video, and maybe it'll be useful. And if it is, let's see, 32 minutes. That's a long one. And if it is useful, great. And feel free to comment. Feel free to comment on any changes that may have taken place for you as a result of listening to this that may help others. And may we all help each other to the best of our abilities till eventually we just go, now must go.